The Michael Berry Show.
Tiger King Joe Exotic is our guest. We had to work hard to make this happen, and I am delighted to have you on. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, sir.
4 years ago, you were the top Netflix video. The whole country became aware of your story, and then Carol Baskin gets you sent to prison, and you're trying to get out. Tell me about what happened between the filming of that film, that video, and today. Catch us up to speed.
Okay, well, first of all, a lot of people don't understand. I've been in prison since September the 7th of 2018. I didn't film for Tiger King, okay? Back in the day, before they arrested me for all of this and made Tiger King, I was filming my own reality show at the zoo. So I had 6 terabytes of never-seen footage from the zoo that was scripted for a reality show. And when they set me up and arrested me for this, then my husband at the time sold them that footage, and that's what they used in Tiger King, and then he left me in prison.
So you never saw any of that?
The whole, no, $2.6 million he run off with. Yeah, left me in here to beg for commissary, yeah.
How did Netflix know about your story? How did they know what was going on to know this was going to be such a big deal?
Well, I had a YouTube channel with 1,400 plus videos on it, and the whole exotic animal world knew the feud between Carol and me and Carol and all the other exotic animal people, because she wanted to be the sole person to have tigers in America. And it was all about pushing the Big Cat Safety Act. And the producer, Eric Good of
This call is from a federal prison.
Tiger King, works for PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Okay, so they're all kind of tied in together to push this bill. Well, for 11 years, I fought that bill. I testified in front of this House, I testified in front of the Senate, all over the United States, and kept it from passing, because it's not about helping tigers. It's about they wanted control to monopolize the income on tigers. So they made us all out to be fools. They made me out to be this big crackhead that I'm not, and crazy, because they used a scripted reality show to do this. Then they nicknamed the Big Cat Safety Act the Tiger King bill, and they got it passed, and Biden signed it into law. So who is allowed to have tigers in America now is only members of the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, which is Carol's organization.
How hard has prison been for you?
So they have all of my cats now, in their places, and they're charging $50 a piece to see them, just like I was doing. So there's, it didn't help the tigers. But it's been hard. I'm fighting, prostate cancer and lung cancer, and now I've got to do a PET scan because they think the prostate cancer has moved to my ribs. The food is, you can't stay healthy because they feed you the lowest grade food that's on the planet. And it's tough. It really is tough. But as far as, the inmates, I'm in a medical facility with 1,400 people, everything from high security people to camp people, because it's a medical facility, and I get along with everybody,
Your case, you're trying to get, I don't know if it's a presidential pardon, you're trying to get out of prison, obviously. What is the basis of your case?
Okay, well, I have not seen Tiger King 2, and I only seen Tiger King 1 about 4 months ago, when the lawyers were allowed to bring it in on a computer because we're working on a lawsuit. But since then, on Tiger King 2, Jeff Lowe, James, Lauren, Allen, the hitman, all got on world television and admitted to perjury. And then Allen, the hitman, the government's hitman, went one step further, even on world television, and took him to the zoo and showed him where he hid a murder weapon in the woods, that their original plan was to kill me, and putting me in prison didn't work to get my zoo. Okay, so then when Jeff took over the zoo, and the feds turned on him and took his animals away because Carol wasn't going to let him keep him, then it made him mad, okay? And they turned over their cell phones to my attorneys. And now we have the cell phones of James, Jeff, Lauren, and Alan. And they were recording the federal agents the entire time. First thing you shouldn't do is hire criminals, to do your dirty work. So we have 700 phone recordings, videos, and everybody's text messages proving that the federal agents knew they were lying at my trial. They actually helped them fabricate fake text messages.
Carol Baskin seems to have been your nemesis and caused you a lot of problems. What do people not know about her?
Well, our argument wasn't as big as TV made it out to be. Okay, she had her YouTube channel. She had her way of raising money, and she had a website called 911 Animal Abuse, and I was her most wanted. And she made millions off of convincing people that I was abusive to my animals because I took baby tigers away from their mom and let you play with them. Okay? Well, I had JoeExoticTV.com, and I made a lot of money getting people convinced that she really did kill her husband, because I truly, to this day, believe she killed her husband. And, I was a police chief back in the day, so I did a lot of investigating. I have her original diary. I have his original power of attorney. I have everything. And I just got too close to proving that she killed her husband, and she had to shut me up. That's what this is really about. She just had to shut Joe up because, hell, she designed his power of attorney. First paragraph says, in case of my disappearance. Who put that in a power of attorney? Okay, she designed it. It says she designed it. She filed it 2 months before she reported him missing to make it a legal document. She's the one who had him declared dead in a legal courtroom to collect $6 million plus. Why has she not been charged with fraud if she claims that he's still alive?
Why do you think that is?
I think she just has more money in people's pockets than you could ever imagine, because her son or her brother was the sheriff at the time in Hillsborough, Florida, that investigated all of this, the woman, all you have to do is get online and Google,
This call is from a federal prison.
She donates lots of money to politicians to get them elected. But, Carol got what Carol wanted. She, since then, gave all of her tigers to the sanctuary she represents, and they're taking care of them. She sold Big Cat Rescue for $19.5 million. She's rich. She's out there. She's doing what she wanted. She got exactly what she wanted. But I'm asking, I'm on appeal for a new trial, and I've been waiting 3 years. That's how slow this system is. And I will win this new trial. If they grant me a new trial, they'll never take me back to trial because all their witnesses have turned over their cell phones and admitted to perjury. So they have no case. All right? And the government.
But you've got to get a new trial to get to that point.
Mr. Michael Berry.
I have found in a lifetime of study that those involve conflict, controversy, personality, and sometimes we're fascinated by things that are so unlike the life we lead that we don't want to lead the life of a serial killer, or we don't want to lead the life of a person engaged in a firefight in Vietnam, but we're really interested in what's going through that person's mind and through that person's life. I don't know how many people want to be a chef, like Mario Batali, the Iron Chef, or I don't know how many people wanted to cook with Lagasse or Paul Prudhomme or any of these other very intense chefs. But I think it's interesting to see their life. I don't know how many people would want to go through the scars on the forearms that Anthony Bourdain had to earn to get to the point where he could travel the world and talk about food. And, I always thought he had such a fascinating life. And yet you see that there was mental instability going back quite some time. And then, of course, the taking of his own life. 4 years ago, when Tiger King, Joe Exotic was on Netflix, it was the only thing we talked about in the studio. I mean, we talked about what was in the news, but it was such a fascinating time for us and our team talking through the various characters and the twists and the turns they had as the show developed. And now we learn from Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, that he wasn't even involved in that thing. He was in prison 3 years before that thing ever hit the air. Almost $3 million were made by the selling of the footage, and he didn't get a penny of it, he says. I mean, it really is quite a development, because I think most people probably figure he's out and about living large, living off the money, maybe promoting something else. But in fact, quite a distance from that. He's in prison, battling cancer, and will be for 5 more years if the president doesn't grant him clemency. And if he does, Joe Exotic, if he grants you a pardon tomorrow, what would life look like for Joe Exotic?
Okay, first of all, I have nothing left. They took they destroyed my home. They took my zoo. They sold all my clothes to museums and people, and I have no clothes even. But I have friends out there that are going to help me get my clothes. What am I going to do? I'm going to Mexico, man. My husband is in Mexico. I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to use my platform to get back to doing my charity work, helping sick grants, wishes for sick little kids and the homeless, and I'm going to work my butt off until I can afford one of Trump's gold cards, and then me and my husband will come back to America.
What do you find joy in? Because you've got to find some way to get through the day in prison. What's something that you actually enjoy or have made the most of?
Well, I mean, I spend most of my day out at rec, outside, walking and working out, keeping my head straight. But, my fans and my supporters, I've probably received over 100,000 letters since I've been in here. And I get still 10 letters a day. The people around the world that saw through the show and since then have seen them admit to perjury and stuff. The fans is what's kept me going. Because everyone sees that I'll get out of here. Worst case scenario right now, Michael, is my out date is October of 2030. So if I can beat this keep this cancer at bay for 5 more years, I'm out of here anyway. But the right thing to do, I have Congresswoman Boebert, I have Congressman Eric Burleson, I've got Joe Rogan, I've got Matt Gaetz, I have Dana White, I have the Hogan family, I've got everybody out there screaming to let me out. And I've got a clemency on file in Ed Martin's office. And, they don't even have to give me a pardon. I tell everybody, I look up to President Trump. He knows how the system is. He's a felon. He's convicted 34 felonies. They indicted him 94 times. I don't need to have a presidential pardon. I just commute my sentence as time served and let me go on my way.
So I'm assuming you watched Netflix's film about you that you didn't participate in from in prison. Did you? What was the setting? Were you in a room with a bunch of other people? What was that like?
No, I was in a lawyer visit. It was just me and my lawyers in a room.
And y'all watched it together?
Yes, sir.
Were you screaming at the screen?
Yeah, and I was so disgusted because Tiger King didn't do anything for tigers. Okay, They made me out to be a meth head, which I wasn't. I was the only one in the show with a full set of teeth wearing clothes. I mean, come on. Look through the smoke screen. Okay, who interviews a hitman in a bathtub? All right, you know, and then they had John Finley running around with a shirt off the whole time. But the thing that disappointed me the most is Saf, the girl that lost her arm.
Yeah.
You know, she went up against the government and with me to keep from having to kill that tiger because they wanted to kill that tiger, and she took full blame and kept that tiger alive. And if you wanted to make a show about tigers or conservation of tigers in captivity, they should have set her in front of that tiger cage and let her tell her story, and not blame the tiger, you know. But instead, they put her in a junkyard to make it look like my zoo looked like a junkyard.
When you saw some of the folks who, now that you were in prison, were talking about you that maybe never would have before, who did you feel the most betrayed by?
I was probably the most disappointed in John Finley because he was there for 11 years, and he took a payoff to talk crap and make a movie because nothing he said was the truth. He accused me in the movie of burning my own TV studio. Okay, first of all, I was in Chicago at a funeral granting the last wish. So him and Rinky, the guy with no legs, was the only ones at the zoo. So if I had anybody burn it, it would have been him. So nothing made sense. But, Michael, this thing peaked, which means it's going to hang up any second. I want to thank you for giving me a platform, giving me a voice. I hope you have me back sometime. Tell everybody to get on joeexoticofficial.com and look at the evidence. It's all there.
joeexoticofficial.com. I have checked it out.
Yes, sir.
A real pleasure to have you on, and we will have you back. Thank you, buddy.